From the St. Francis Yacht Club in San Francisco, this is the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon, hosted by Ron Young.
Welcome to the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon, live from the virtual grill room of the St. Francis Yacht Club. We hope that you and yours are safe and healthy in a protected environment, and we look forward to meeting you back in the Yacht Club just as soon as conditions permit. Our speaker today grew up in small boats. He remembers as a 4-year-old sailing on his parents' Ranger 25 on Lake St. Clair in one of those bright orange life jackets designed to embarrass anyone who wears them. At age 14, he remembers being part of his first Port Huron to Mac race. That's 240 miles or 2 days and nights upwind, tacking. What a sweet introduction to racing that is. And at age 18, he, with his brother Matt, bought a Lightning, and now they could sail 6 days a week. They're pretty good at it, and by age 21, the brothers were racing in their first North Americans with 150 boats in the competition and starting lines with 50 boats on them. They began to marvel during all of this at the dedication and skills needed by these really competent race committees and began to wonder what modern tools could help them, which leads us to ask, how will the age of robotics affect sailboat racing? Driverless cars may reduce accidents. Autonomous forklifts may reduce back injuries. Robots can spot weld fenders, improve surgery, and even prepare dinner. There are robots that mimic the flight of seagulls, dragonflies, even butterflies. So what about sailing? With his brother, our speaker today founded a company to set and move marks on a race course with the ease of pushing buttons on your cell phone. In the same way that cell phones have more features than old home phones, robotic marks have more features than those we handset with anchors, anchor chain, MarkSetBoats, and crew. To learn all about MarkSetBot, the world's first robotic mark, let's meet co-founder and CEO, Kevin Morin. Kevin, welcome to the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon.
Hey, Ron. Thanks for having me. It's really an honor. I've always admired St. Francis, and I was excited when you guys invited me to join you. Thank you. Today, I'm going to talk about MarkSetBot, the world's first robotic mark. We've been in all kinds of conditions. We've been in races with fast boats and really, really fast boats, with close mark roundings and close competition. We've been all over the world. The idea of an anchorless robotic mark is something that swirled around in my head starting more than 10 years ago. I'm an IT guy, a lifelong sailor, and a serial entrepreneur. I started a bunch of companies in different spaces, and all of these, I have a passion for solving the unsolvable. And so I'm looking for solutions to challenging problems. And I found that sailboat racing had one of those. And so I started actively working on this when a close friend of mine passed away. His name was Bill Margolin. And as a little kid, he taught me how to sail and also how you conquer challenging problems. So back in 2014, I started working on this as a tribute to Bill. And at the time, my world had 3 challenges for race committee: deep water, shifty winds, and a lack of volunteers. And over the years, as we built out this product and it's matured around the globe, well, it turned out there were a bunch of other problems that people needed us to solve. And so the first one was that my perception of deep water was not what is really deep water. And so we found places around the globe that were 2,000 feet deep. So you imagine setting an anchor in water that's that deep, how hard that would be. And places that had currents where the marks just shift all over the place because they can't stay in position. And places that have both broken motorboats and initiatives where they don't want to have gasoline powered motorboats. So 2 different motorboat issues we came to solve. And then our passion quickly became around sustainability in protecting the seabed and cutting down on emissions. And so we've had a core focus on that. And then starting last year became one extra, which was social distancing. And so we've been able to save a whole bunch of regattas. And so in a day's notice, we've had a bunch of our friends and partners save regattas. And so these are the things that we found as pain, and we're able to address all of them. So what this translated to, as we continued to build the product and it got better and better, the bottom line was more racing, better race courses, happier race committee, happier sailors, and we're making our sport sustainable. So all of that came together nicely. And so what we've ended up with is a proven system. We're at more than 100 clubs around the world now, and we've just eclipsed 4,000 bot days, so days in which the bots have been used. And we're on track with the momentum we've got right now to eclipse 10,000 bot days by the end of this year. Our patented bots, they're self-propelled, and they use GPS technology to zero in on specific locations. And when they're there, they hold position. All of this is done through an easy, user-friendly mobile interface that allows you to control an entire fleet. They're quick to assemble, and making course changes is a breeze. And so with that, we've created a really big goal, and our BHAG is that we will supersede the traditional mark as the standard for sailboat racing worldwide. And we put a line in the sand that we're going to do that by 2027, 10 years after we started. To get there, we're making MarkSetBot an indispensable piece of race committee tech. Over the past 10 years, performance sailboats have changed dramatically, but unfortunately, race management tools have not, until now. This is our vision of the world, of the race committee and the race world. And so we've created 6 levels of automation. And let me walk through that, Ron. So level 0 is traditional mark setting. And so we're doing that with mark boats and people, a signal boat, what we're all used to for many, many years. And then from there, we built out an app that let the signal boat show the mark boats where to place themselves. And so you use our MarkSetBot app, and with that, the race committee says, go here, and the mark boat just needs to go there. So that's level 1 automation. And then level 2 is our most popular product, our MarkSetBot. So with that, you're able to set an entire course with no anchors and no mark boats. Well, level 3 automation became necessary because when you don't have any mark boats on the course, you need to gather wind info and you need to have a way to sound horns. So our level 3 automation came a couple years ago, and we have both of those features built into the app. So then really exciting, and we'll get into level 4 and level 5 more in a minute. Level 4 automation brings in the ability to detect when boats start early. It auto scores boats and has tracking enabled to replay races after racing is completed. So what that means now is you no longer need people to run a race. So with no committee and no mark boats, you can run an entire regatta. Level 5 automation is still coming. So we have the building blocks of this in place. The difference between 4 and 5 is that with 4, you still have to have a human that says go. With level 5, with our cloud AI system, it's going to determine when to change the course and how to change the course. And it's going to do that all based on the sensors that are on the bots. So this is our view of the fully autonomous race course and how you get there. So with that, this isn't a fluff concept. So we have a product called RaceOS. And in October 2020, we ran the first fully automated regatta. And that is to suggest that nobody ever in the entire world has run a fully automated regatta. And at our little club in Detroit in October 2020, we ran the first ever fully automated regatta. And that was the combination of our wind system, our signal system, OCS and finish detection. And baked into that is a next level set of notifications. So automatic VHF broadcasts, horn system automation, messages to smartphones, messages to smartwatches, the gamut, right? Like the perfect notification system and all of that's in play already. And then when we got back to the dock, we were able to play back the entire race from a coaching standpoint. And all of this is in Race OS as of today.
This is Race OS by MarkSetBot, a game-changing racecourse innovation. Self-setting race courses with wind shift adjustments, sequence and course change signals, start and finish detection with automatic scoring, all fully controlled by the MarkSetBot operating system. Using sensors on each boat and location data from MarkSetBots, Race OS can detect OCS penalties without a race committee. Race OS instantly notifies competitors of their status by radio and text message. Bots are equipped with wind sensors to accurately report wind speed and direction, and they adjust dynamically to changing conditions. The Race OS horn system alerts competitors of course changes throughout the race. Finishes are tracked and scored immediately. No more waiting for results to be posted. The future of racing is here. Automate your course with Race OS by MarkSetBot.
Kevin, that's very exciting. And I understand you're now going to take us live to a live MarkSetBot demo in the water.
We have Finn Elliott on my team who is in Florida. So he has a live stream of a bot that's at Davis Island Yacht Club. As we talked about earlier, I'm in Detroit and you're in San Francisco. And the three of us can go back and forth controlling a bot. That is the nature of it, that you can be anywhere in the world and control a bot.
Great, Kevin. So we're looking at a chart, and up is north on that chart. And
Yep.
when we're looking down at, and where is the bot? Show me which is the bot.
The bot is 27 here. Let me zoom in. And the camera is the bot cam. So the BC here is the camera. So you're looking just a little bit right of south.
Yeah, exactly. Southwest. Great.
Yep.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
And right now, Griffin can hear us as we're talking?
He can, yep.
Great. Okay.
It's very windy where he is, so that's why he's muted.
Great. Okay, I'll continue with the demo. This is so fun.
Okay, so now this is an interactive demo. You get to control the bot run. So click on my map once, anywhere, and then grab the orange dot and drag it. Okay.
Oh, that is totally cool.
Yes.
I wanted to move a little bit west.
Okay, so you've achieved that. So now this lets you, in the interface, you can have a bunch of bots. And so we only have one in there, but if you have multiples, you name them on the left-hand side, and then you can control multiple ones at once. So we only have one there to simplify it. Once you drag them, you need to confirm it. So go to the navigate button in the upper left and click on that.
Okay.
And the first time you engage the motor, you have to hit OK.
I have to engage for the first time during this session, engage the motor. Okay, I engage the motor. So I'm asking it to go westward in that distance. It's going to the route specified. Okay, so looking south at it, it should go to the right. Look, there goes that bot.
Yeah, and we're zoomed in pretty good, so it'll probably go off the screen, which will be funny.
I'm going to put it closer to us.
Yep, that'll work. And so just hit navigate again.
Oh yeah, I have to say do it. Hit navigate, okay.
There you go. And then I'll come back in a second. So with this, you see the depth chart. And so as you're setting up race areas, it doesn't matter how deep it is. But just like in any other racing, if you're racing where there are shallows, you don't want to mark where people are going to round and run aground. And so you see in the map where you've got that.
Yeah, cool. So what's the rate of speed which the bot is moving?
4 knots. I'm going to move it a little bit more to the side here.
So we can see it better.
Yep, there you go.
Okay. It's moving at 4 knots. Is it always 4 knots whenever the motor's on, as soon as it gets up to speed, it's moving at 4 knots?
Correct. You can actually control it, but other than when you're running routes, there really isn't a reason to do that. So you can control the speed, but the default is full speed. And I'm actually going to stop it here so we can keep it in frame, and then I'll hit anchor. So to explain the buttons up top, you saw navigate.
Yeah, exactly.
What anchor does is anchor it right where it is at this exact moment.
Got it.
You don't have to hit anchor when you do a navigate, because it anchors automatically when it gets to where you tell it to go.
Okay.
And then stop turns the prop off.
Stop turns off the prop. And layout, what is layout? What's the button layout do? Circling.
So that's a real key button. So go ahead and hit layout.
Okay.
Okay, so it is impossible to guess where you should drag a mark on a map unless you have a schematic that tells you where to put it. So let's say we want a course, these numbers actually work. So let's say it's 200 degrees and you want it to be 0.2 nautical miles.
Okay.
And you've got the 150 degree line length and a 60 meter. So that's 150 meter line length and 60 meter offset.
Yeah.
Change the starting location and pick BC, which is the bot camera. So because I'm in Detroit, if you did this from race committee, yes. I'm the race committee. So it would make a map in Detroit instead of in Florida. Okay, wow. So then down at the bottom, click that course type just so you can see what it has. So we've built out a lot of different courses. And then with the variables above, you can tweak all of them.
Totally cool. So, and of course, having founded the Big Sail collegiate competition between Cal and Stanford, we switched to a slalom course 2 big sails ago. And it's a very exciting course. And I'm kind of thrilled to see that you already have a slalom course let out as a possible course.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah, we do that with Moths and Wasps is who had us build that out. Making the new courses just takes a couple hours. So when people give us their SIs, if they're a customer and we don't have a course that works, we build the course. So when the Wasps in Sydney needed a slalom course, we made them a slalom course.
Totally cool.
Yeah, and that one, of course, would work perfectly for what you're doing.
Yeah, so give us the description as you go down these type of courses.
Digital End's a popular high school one, and that one is one of the best use cases for MarkSetBot. Why don't you click that one and hit add the course layout?
Okay.
It has a lot of marks.
Now you say add course layout. I just clicked it. Do I have to
It might be cut off on your screen because of Zoom. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so when the wind changes with a digital end, you need to move one. Let me point with my mouse. You need to move the start.
Okay.
So this one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 marks need to change when the wind changes. And they're traditionally short courses. So we can make a 10, 20 degree change in about 30 seconds of the entire course.
Give us an example of that. Let's just say the breeze, we're looking right now and we're looking down at the chart. And where's the wind coming from in this hypothetical?
Well, actually, let me show you something on that. So tap menu up top.
Yep. Okay, great.
The wind is coming from 272 degrees right now.
Yeah, right.
And over the last 5 minutes, it's been an average of 282. So we're in a left shift.
This is the screen off the mobile app right now?
Correct. Yeah. So the mobile app is identical on a PC, a tablet, or a phone. It just adjusts size. But all of the features are available in all layouts.
So give us some example. Touch these buttons: wind panel, wind rose, wind direction, speed. That's where we are right now.
Do wind rose is the next one to click. So wind panel is just those numbers. And this is kind of like the dream for a race committee person. What it shows you is percent trends of a velocity and a direction over time. So the wind has been blowing only from the west and west-southwest, right? Like for the last 3 hours, that's what the wind's been doing. And most of the time it's been blowing from the west. Of that time, if you hover over the little red there, it'll give you a percent. 12% of the time it was blowing to 15 to 18. and 30% of the time, 12 to 15.
Great.
Okay. So then if you click the third button there, the wind speed and direction.
Yeah.
This one is velocities are the blue lines and red are the direction over that period of time. So we
Right.
see that, and the newest is up at the top. So we were in a big right shift and now it's going left.
Right. We're right here at this moment. It's going left, been going left. Huh.
Yep.
So the phases, how long does it take for me to go from here to here? How can I quickly see?
It'll show you the time on it. So you would need to compare those.
Got it. Okay.
And this is one of those examples. Nobody's ever asked me that question, Ron. So I'm probably going to make it tonight.
Exactly. What you and I would want to know, like this oscillation here, is this a 2-minute oscillation? So
Yeah.
if we're sailing along and we get headed, we know we got 2 minutes on the new breeze, on the
Yeah.
new phase. If you sail, you and I know different areas, these oscillations sometimes have a common period. So this is completely fascinating. And what I want to say is that the race management tech and the race participant tech, sort of like merge here. And we all know, knowledge is power. And this provides the race management team, but also for the competitor to know these kinds of things is not only fascinating, but it's valuable.
Yep. And that part of the reason we designed the system to be, it's all cellular based. There are redundancies to that, but when you have a cellular network, you're able to share this data if a PRO wants to. You're able to share all of this data with people, either with your other race officers, or if you want to enable it, you can let the competitors see it. So I imagine we'll have ley lines reported on people's smartwatches if the club wants to do that, right? And if they don't turn the feature on. So we're making everything, because we're sensitive to that. There are lots of clubs that aren't ever going to want to embrace Race OS's full course automation.
Yes.
And that's cool. They can still benefit from not hurting their backs by pulling up anchors, right? So the MarkSetBot still works for them. And pretty much everybody is going to want wind information. But not everybody's going to want a horn system. And not everybody's going to want their races auto scored, right? So all of this, you just pick the components you want and you turn those on.
So I'm old enough to remember when all cars were stick shift, and there was a big argument when the market started moving to automatic transmissions in the 50s and 60s. And the argument was, but it's actually fun to drive. And many people said, I had a Porsche, I had an MGA at the time, and then a Porsche later. Anyway, bottom line is we all said, no, if you want to manually shift your car, you can still buy one of those kind of cars. And it's interesting now, my car is an automatic, but if I want it, it's got Tiptronic shifting. If I want to hit the gear shift, I can still shift it manually if I want to. So this is a case where you can have an automated race management tool, which could be available to competitors as the race committee chooses. And in every case, it gives more opportunity, flexibility, and I might say interest to race management people and even potentially participants. This explains what's happening with the wind graphically to the point where lots of people who don't currently get what's happening with the wind shifts would get a better understanding of it.
Yep. And that was what we were trying to achieve with it. And who knows the power of where this is going to go? Because just in this conversation, I'll end up with several notes of what we should go do more or do differently. And so the product just keeps getting better and better as people give us more ideas. So it's pretty neat to share this stuff with the world.
So now, as a guy who's given a bunch of presentations, like you're in the 900s since I started chairing the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon in 1991. We're getting close to 1,000 Wednesday Yachting Luncheons. But this is the first time that I've been able to touch my own screen when somebody else's screen is being shared. So that's pretty interesting. In other words, it's not that we're using Zoom to share your screen. We're using Zoom to share your screen, but it's interactive to the touch of my mouse. So,
and you're controlling a bot that's 2,000 miles from you.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a real fun demo. I've been pushing these buttons. So I pushed the far left button, wind panel. This gives me the basic stats. Since we've been talking, the wind went right 3 degrees and it dropped a little bit in velocity. Then I get to wind rose to see, what the average has been for X period of time.
Right now it's set for 3 hours.
I see we have a new little orange growing over here as of lightning. I see that orange bar, if I could call it that, in the pie shape. That's pretty cool. So now up here, this horn, if I wanted to beep the horn right now, I want to go beep, beep, get ready. We're about to start a race. Can you do that remotely?
Yeah, you can. That's exactly how it works. So if you tap single horn, that's it. The horn will go off, and you can have horns on every mark if you want. And then 5 horns does just what you would expect. Beep, 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 beep. And then really more interesting gets into the start sequences. To keep it short, go to one of the 3-minute ones. Okay, so when you have our RaceOS level 4 automation turned on, when you hit that start button, a bunch of things happen. So there's a VHF broadcast that goes across saying that the race is about to start. It also turns all the trackers on, and it starts tracking them to detect OCSs. And now it has the roster of racers set up. It takes care of all of that with one button hit. So in that event I talked about in October, I literally just had to hit start sequence, and the horns went off, and the whole race happened. And when we finished, we knew who won. And that's just from one button hit. So I just had to pick the course bearing, which you saw on the layout screen, and then hit start sequence, and the rest is it.
So now let's just go through. Right now, when I put a 3-minute sequence, and you had number of seconds up here, and then next horn. So we're going to get a horn at 2 minutes, and then at 1 minute. That's what's going to happen here.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So the top one's counting the overall seconds until the start, and the one below it is counting till the next horn.
And are these different tones, the horns? What's the difference between the 3-minute, the 2-minute, the 1 minute, the starting horn?
So we have 3 levels, the same tone, but they're 3 levels of length. So there's a 1 second horn would be so when you have your 3-minute gun, it's going to do 3 long horns. And then we have a quick horn, and we have a very quick horn. So when you do that 5 horns up top, it's like bap, 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 really quick like that. Whereas in this sequence, when you get to 1.5 minutes, it would do a 1 second horn and then 3 short horns.
Gotcha. Cool. That's great.
Those are also very simple, just like the course layout to make. So it turns out all of these things are slightly different in different regions of the world.
Right.
And so whenever we get a new customer, if it doesn't do what they need, we just make them a new item in the dropdown.
I push the battery button here. This shows me that 27, and it says the time looks like 1:58 p.m., 40% at 13 volts.
Yep. And so this screen is much more impressive and much more useful when you have a bunch of bots in the system.
Okay.
Because from one screen, you can see health of the entire fleet. In this case, so the bot was used yesterday and didn't get charged. And so I think we started below 50 a couple hours ago. And so it's consuming 4.2 volts, 4.2 amps. And so with that, we've got about 16 hours left of battery right now. 40% at the left is battery state of charge. The one on the right is how fast the propeller's spinning.
This is here.
Yep.
You have 28%. You mean it's going 1/4 of the speed it could go? Is that what that means?
That's exactly what it means. Yep. So if we were navigating it, that would be at 100%. It's staying still, but the prop is spinning to keep up with the wind.
Gotcha. It's not going through the water, but it's holding itself against the breeze, against the wind. Okay.
But it probably is going a little bit, to your point, right? There's a little bit of current. So I think if you looked at the hulls, you'd probably see it look like there was a little bit of water moving.
A little wake. What's the most wind and current the current state of your bots can handle?
So we haven't had them in more than 35 knots of wind and haven't used them. We used them in the Solent. We haven't used them in more than, and in New York, we had a lot of current there too, both of those Sail GP events. I would say it was above 3 knots, like 3.5, 4 knots. I haven't had an opportunity to test it in more than that, but it is inevitable that will be the shortcoming. So when you can only move 4 knots, as you start to get more current than that, you can't keep up with it. The courses, so in this case, you see all these purple dots. You can make an unlimited number of routes. And so that is route 0 or route O for out. And we took the bot from the dock and loaded it in right where O1 is. And what we have here is a route, and it's kind of like Pac-Man. It eats up the dots and then ends here. So we put it in the water and said, run the route. And this is about half a mile where it went all the way around like that and then found itself here. You can also play routes in reverse. So when it's time to go back into the club, you say go, and it goes back and stops at O1. So the first time a regatta was run at this club, we set up this route, and then you're able to reuse it. It's very similar to how you'd set up a route in a Garmin. So you got to go increment by increment, and in this case, it literally goes in numeric order. So if I took 2 and moved it over here, it would try to go through the shore on its way to 3.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. So the bot operator, which we call a bot master, it's up to them to make sure they put the bot in the right place. It doesn't have a camera system for detecting collisions. It's up to you as the user to make sure you put it where it's safe to put it. So what we ask people to do when they get them, the training guide says, set this up on land and play with the app. Drag the marks where you want to put them and hit go. It's simple, but when you're in a tight space, mixing up which way is north and which way is south, all of that can be confusing, especially when you're at a club maybe that you hadn't been at before. So certainly, they've been running the docks a lot, and then as you get better at it, it's no longer a problem.
What about when in reality the race course is 7 miles away? Let's just pick a number out of the air.
I usually use a rule, 2 rules. If it's more than a mile to the race course, I typically tow them.
Okay.
And then there's a second thing to that, which is if it's a high traffic area, it is too high stress to send these things when boats are whipping back and forth around it, and you might have to pause it. And let's say you're controlling 7 of them, you got to pause 1 of them. It's like a full-time job to watch the things. So it's just easier to tow them in high dense areas. And then if it's more than a mile, we typically tow them. They can go more than that. They just end up being slower, right? So you can tow them faster than they go. So at my club, we race just half a mile off the club. We definitely don't tow them. We send them for that. It works great. But if you're far out, most people would tow them.
What % of your current deployments do they tow the marks to the course?
It's pretty much half.
Half. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What % of your deployments are in lakes at this early stage in the company's growth?
When we started, this became a thing for the most exclusive clubs only. It's a new technology. People obviously didn't know about it because it never existed before we made it. And so the people who started buying these were the clubs that were wealthy. And most of those clubs aren't on little lakes. So most of our deployment early on was in oceans. And I would guess it's about 50-50 now. So in 2020, because of COVID, what we found was a lot of clubs invested in this because it was a way for them to run races when their racing season was going to be canceled. So this year we sold more to lakes than we've ever sold, but it was just a factor of we really haven't had people from little lakes coming to us before.
So that gets me to, who are the early adopters of your technology? Who are they? Give me the profile of the early adopter.
So we have 2 funny ones. One's funny and one's just normal. So Yacht Club de Monaco saw us online in 2017. They wanted to be part of the beta. but we limited the beta to the US from a support standpoint. And so early 2018, they pulled the trigger. So they were the first club to buy them. But right before that, a golf company bought one. So Hull One is actually not a MarkSetBot. It is called Golf Shot Bot, and people use it as a driving range.
Wait. Say that again? How do they use it?
Yeah, I can't make this stuff up. So people use it as a driving range. The company's called Splash City, and they have golf balls that become fish food after a day. And so they line up along shorelines and have driving ranges trying to hit the MarkSetBot.
So they design the driving range by putting these targets or these bots out in the water, and they use golf balls which turn into fish food as they biodegrade.
Yeah.
And then they can basically use the bot to move the bot, and you get practice with your one wood or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
How far out are they usually?
They do this in Baltimore, and it's fairly tight spaces where they're doing it. So they're doing it predominantly at bars and on beaches. And so, they don't normally send it very far. So it's more of a 9-iron and 7-iron kind of stuff, chipping wedges versus traditional driving. It obviously could be either, but to hit something that's 84 inches in diameter from far away would be very, very hard.
What does it make a sound if you got it set up so it can make a sound or anything when you hit it?
They're working on that. Right now they do it with horns, but they're working to automate that where when it hits, it will go berserk.
What else would you like to explain about the other navigational buttons down below here? Remote.
I think we've covered it. The rest of them are very utilitarian of telling you the count of satellites and stuff like that. It's not exciting, but it's a full-fledged, everything you need to run an event is in the app. But it gets into the minutia of it. So I think we've covered it.
Did the app automatically draw out this chart? How does it get this chart?
This is Navionics, and yes, so worldwide, and then based on if your locale uses feet or meters, it changes dynamically between feet and meters.
So talk to me about customer support.
We have online training videos. We've spent a lot of time making assets. So when you get a MarkSetBot, so let's say you buy one, it comes in the mail, and on the cover of it is a URL that you go to that takes you to the training. And there is both a PDF guide on how to assemble it and how to use it. And then there's also, I think it's 10 or 15 very short, like 60-second videos that show you every single process. And then beyond that, you reach out to us and we'll help you. At the other extreme, we run a lot of regattas too. And so that's actually why Finn is in Florida right now. He lives in Michigan, but he's in Florida running events. And so for people who don't want to learn the app and they just want to have less people involved in running the races, we do a lot of that too. So he takes the bots there. He's responsible for setting them up and cleaning them and then packing them up when they're done. And they just move from event to event. We have a whole fleet of event rental bots.
So let's talk about the life of a bot. First of all, what's the physical dimensions of these bots?
So in our FAQs, it talks about the size. It's got the exact sizes here. So the orange, yellow, or green top side is 84 inches in diameter. It's a circle. And then it is 54 inches tall.
So they're 7 feet round diameter. Okay.
Yep. And if you go here, you can see what the gut looks like underneath.
Tell us what we're looking at. We're looking at 2 pontoons. Okay, and then a gray surface structure sits on top of those. That's a piece of plastic.
It's actually inflatable. If we're shipping it in its simplest form, it comes in 2 boxes. One that has the top side and the hull and the battery, and then a second one that has the motor in it. And all of the parts of the motor are in one. Finn just timed this, and I think he got the whole hull set up in 5 minutes. So what we have here, you see the pontoons and the deck. We have a Pelican case that has a large battery, lithium-ion battery in it. And then up top here is where the magic happens. We have a GPS and compass. And so when this detects that a turn is needed, there is a steering motor down here that kicks in and turns left or right. We take them out with the signal boat to the race course and then deploy them from that and then square the whole course. So when I'm at an event or a end user is doing this, they have their tablet or phone with them and they're setting the course based on where they are currently anchored, right? So you take your signal boat out, you anchor it, and then you do that layout screen from yourself.
What percent of the deployments currently use a signal boat versus no signal boat?
Almost everybody uses signal boats at this point because the RaceOS technology is so new. So as people start to embrace that, if you don't have any boat anchored or you don't have any boat out there, you need to use our trackers to be able to detect when people have started and finished. And that technology is so new that pretty much everybody, other than our club, really is running races with, with a boat anchored.
Okay, so now let's imagine that we're in a starting sequence and we've got these two bots, port and starboard into the line, and the current gets strong. How often are you moving the bot to accommodate for the increase in wind or current?
Constantly.
Constantly. So it's just running. Is it updating every second, every 10th of a second, every 2 seconds? How often?
I think it's every 10th of a second. That's not code I dive into very often, but it's constant. So you look at it and it is changing its thrust and its direction constantly.
And so effectively, it's basically still stationary in the water. It looks like if you had a bird's eye view looking straight down at the chart, it would look like it's standing in the water, regardless of what happens with the current or the wind or whatever.
Right.
Okay, and you're designing it so that the line stays square or GPS rigid. Which do you do?
GPS rigid. I originally made it adjust more dynamically, and inside the typical racing rules of sailing, that was too progressive.
Right.
That's part of RaceOS level 5. So at some point, as the world progresses that way, I think there will be people who do that. What I'm planning to do is a voting system right now. So for the next several years that people will get there'll be one person who has to confirm the changes. And so their wrist is going to vibrate and they're going to tap yes kind of thing.
Yeah. So if you gave us a vote and I was commander of the course, I would basically, for the moment at least, till I hear arguments otherwise, I want it to be GPS rigid because it's enough of us to be thinking it's going to go left, where do I want to be? So
right.
Then have the bot thinking as well and keep taking away the advantage of forethought. I'd want to basically have it, you just leave your doggone mark where it is. I'll figure out where I want to start on the left or the right side of the course, based upon what I guess is going to happen. Okay, so what's the future now? You showed us a spectrum from zero automation to full automation on that chart earlier. Now let's look ahead for a second. Just in the race course, in the recreational market, is a fully automated race course what you're going after? Tell us the other tools that you make available or imagine you will make available for MarkSetBot in the future.
Yeah, so we have about 100 items that we've created or that customers have requested, like pipe dream kind of features, many of them. And we dedicate a certain amount of time each year to working on those features. And so there are a lot of them. Our primary focus right now is on RaceOS and the features around that. But at the same time, we're working on a lot of projects for people to have the wind instrument do X, Y, Z, or the horn system to be able to do this, or the VHF system. So there's a lot of things happening. And we have a roadmap I can send you that shows what 2020 looked like and what is happening in 2021. I think that's probably the best image to help you visualize that.
Okay, so now we've been talking about the recreational sailboat racing market. Uh, there's got to be a commercial deployment of this kind of technology too. What are your thoughts on the right now? You're 100% recreational. One guesses. Talk about the other recreational uses and then the commercial applications of this technology.
Yeah. So in terms of the usage outside of sailing, what we're waiting for, we've created a list of about 25 different industries that could benefit from using something like this. So we can move about 3,000 pounds at about 4 knots with our biggest motor, and then can keep things in place. And with a solar panel, keep things in place indefinitely. So we came up with a list of a bunch of industries that could benefit from that. And many of them are government, science kind of things, water testing. So there are a lot of different areas. What we're looking to do is partner with people on those. So our passion, the team of 10, all of us are sailors. So that is clearly our passion. But we're going to find people who are passionate about water testing and passionate about Arctic adventures, right? Like we're going to have people who do that, and they're going to license the tech from us is our plan. So there's going to be a lot of growth there. The sailing market is actually substantially larger than what we thought when we started. But to have mass success on this, like we've spent a lot of time making this product, we are intending to partner with people who take this to other industries.
When you say the market is bigger than you thought it was, in what ways does it turn out to be bigger? How is it bigger than you initially imagined?
Yeah, so some of it was the data I was trusting before we had market researchers find the real data. So there are a lot more yacht clubs and a lot more sailing yacht clubs than I thought. There are 9,000 yacht clubs around the globe. So there are 9,000 yacht clubs around the globe, and 4,000 of those are active sailing clubs.
How many races a year would you average would be?
These were all, so the market research company scored the organizations, and more than 1,000 of them run at least one big regional event every year, right? So you got 1,000 that are kind of the diehard clubs around the world, and then another 3,000 that are running regular racing, but not typically invitationals.
So what do you guess the total addressable market, or TAM, is for the recreational sailboat market deployment of this kind of technology?
Yeah, so if I do the math, we've got, I'm going to base it on 4,000. So we have 4,000 active clubs. Our BHAG is that they are all going to use bots moving forward. And one of the huge changes in my mind from when I started this 7 years ago, I was imagining clubs would buy one. And it turns out nobody buys one. Almost everybody gets 4 of them. So like 3 to 5 is kind of the number that gets ordered. So the market is 4 times bigger than I imagined because people want 4 of them, not 1 of them. So if we take 4,000 clubs times 4 and then multiply that by $7,750, and you end up with a number about $120 million.
$120 million of TAM in the recreational first market. Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, and then it's an innovative thing. So I still have the first bot that we made 7 years ago. It still works. But most people want, well, at least enough people want to be very progressive. So we're pushing people to get on our subscription model instead of buying it. Mm-hmm. And with that, they get brand new bots every 3 years. So it's a constant cycle of new equipment.
And they're paying on a monthly recurring revenue model?
Exactly. Yeah, a lot less than what you pay when you buy it up front, and you get a longer warranty, more services, typical kind of as a service stuff. We call it bot as a service.
What's your typical software rev cycle these days?
Like 1 minute. No, so it has stabilized a lot this year, but given that this concept didn't exist, if we were talking R&D amounts, I'm easily spending more than 1,000 hours a year on R&D. we're a small company. I think that'll probably slow down to half, even as our revenues go up exponentially. We're spending too much R&D time to justify, but we're trying to get out there very rapidly and continue to progress. So that's the nature of it.
Essentially, if I was to open up, if I had the app on my phone right now and I looked at the app, what version would I be looking at right now? What version number is this?
So we don't actually version the app itself. We version the brain code. And okay. I think I don't want to tell you that. It's been a lot.
But for instance, it's going to be, 14.1.2 or something. It's going to be 140 versions.
Yeah, it's been 335.
Good fun answer. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so what percent of your time are you spending on the recreational and what percent on the commercial deployments at this moment, or applications at this time of your life as a founder?
100% on recreational at this moment. So that's definitely going to pivot. I've been, as most startups, I've been wearing a lot of hats. And so this year, the last 9 months specifically, have been around finding people to fill the seats so that I'm in less seats to enable visionary kind of stuff, right? But I've been in the weeds for 7 years, and now we're big enough that we are able to expand that to more people.
Right. Describe your staff. You said you got a staff of 10, or some of those are full-time and some of those are part-time?
Yep. So about half are part-time and half are full-time. And what we've been able to do, and it's really kind of awesome, the people specialize in certain things. And so they're super passionate about this, and they help us with whatever particular thing is on the accountability chart for them. And so they focus. My wife, as an example, is on the team, and so she focuses on graphics design and marketing related things. And so she owns it. And we recently, my dad has been in the advertising business for 40 years, I guess. And he just recently retired. And so for the first time, we've actually started working together. So we've owned businesses at the same time for a long time, but never worked together. So there are just lots of stories of that, of the person who's built the majority of the bots with me. His name's Jim Thompson. And so he and I were like from very early on making these things. So I can say the first 60 bots, he and I built 50-50. Right, like that. So we've had a lot of close friends who have been involved, and we just keep picking up passionate people because it's such a cool concept.
Now, sort of lastly, you got into the game of sailing, and you sail with Bill Margolin. What did you like about him? Tell us about him.
So Bill was a tough dude, and one of those people you probably didn't want to work for, and one of those people you probably didn't want as your dad, but he was one of those people you wanted to motivate you to do stuff, because there was a lack of tolerance for things that were wrong. So there was a right way to do things, and we've carried that. So our systemic approach to development and to building products, a huge amount of that was inspired by the way he acted. And he was a tough guy. Right, but he taught us a lot about running a sailing team, and at the same time, how to do things differently. Right, it's hard to get lots of people behind you when you're so tough on them. Right, so there were goods and bads, but ultimately it was a fantastic relationship.
Great. So, Kevin, it's been fun and fascinating listening to you describe your new product and innovation in sailboat racing, and ultimately in broader applications of the technology. And I want to thank you for being our guest on the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon, and wish you a great success with your venture. And we want to check in with you later on and hear what new innovations you're introducing to the marketplace and how you're progressing as the company grows.
All right. Well, thanks, Ron. This was wonderful. I appreciate you.
Thanks very much. Been our pleasure. And with that, the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon is adjourned.
This has been a presentation of the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon.